All right, we are back for episode 21 of the AAC Podcast, and we were actually going to end episode 20 and just head off, but we're still here at the studio because Roy came up with a great idea to talk about trust and how important it is and how it affects people and all the things we're going to dive into. And I have so much to talk on this topic specifically, and I'm really excited to see what you two have to say on this about trust. So Roy, hit us off. You said it right away. What do you got on it? And let's dive into it.
No, I mean, the reason why we brought up the idea of, wanting to talk about this topic of trust is people are a lot less trusting today. Everyone's on guard. Everyone has a fence up. It's really hard to really let who you are to be, or just let more people into your own circle, which I think it should be guarded 100%, especially if you're going to be able to have that community of trust. But that community of trust, I believe back in the day, especially when we were younger, it was like wide open. It was like, you see another kid down the block, you want to go have fun and go shoot hoops, or yeah, let's go hang out. Now it's just like, who are you? You want to sit at my, maybe if you're sitting at a table, you want to sit at this table here? I don't even know who you are.
The first thing that comes to my mind is if you hear an ice cream truck back when you're a kid, you're like, oh, ice cream. Now you're like, oh, that's a creep.
Yep, pedophile.
You just think of something completely different.
I'm also thinking about all the chemicals that's in the ice cream. But anyway, that's another.
Yeah. That's the food pyramid that we got to break that one down.
Every episode all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. People are a lot less trusting now. Maybe a little bit more of a transition from our last episode, because I think a lot of it has to do with being desensitized from social media, because we're used to having our relationships online. The ones in person have deteriorated a little bit, and we often trust people a little less in person. And it does seem like offense and bitterness is growing a little bit in the culture. People are less trusting, less open, and they're more just willing to isolate than ever before.
How many friends do you have on your Facebook account?
I don't use Facebook for friends though. I have art accounts on social media. I show my paintings and stuff, so it's probably 20, 30. You
show your nude paintings?
Yeah. Instagram. I don't use social media for personal reasons ever.
Yeah.
I don't tell people about my personal life. It's just business and art and stuff, and that's about it.
Okay.
So
I have I don't know, several thousands of people on my Facebook. I have no clue who these people are. And so we're isn't that crazy? You're just I have thousands of people that are my friends. I don't know any of them, nor would I even say that I trust them at all.
What does trust mean to you? That word, what does that mean?
There's different levels of trust. There's different layers. And I broke this down too before, where I have our trust, yours and my trust. If I were to come to you, I could trust you with my kids. I couldn't say the same for Alex, just because he's not.
You just got thrown on the bus, but I like it. He's being honest.
I'm being honest here. And I'm pretty sure.
No, it's good.
Because our relationship is still, we've known about each other. We really haven't hung out a whole lot. I'm not the guy you're going to call up and say, hey, Roy, let's go to the club,
Oh, I'm not.
I know you're not going to the club.
I don't know him either.
I know you're not going to the club. But
I'd be a wild card. Gummies? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but there's certain levels of trust, especially when back in the day, I had my boys who I would call up, and be like, hey, let's go. Let's go this place or let's go that place. So there's different levels of trust there. Whereas, my wife, she knows anything and everything. She knows all my, bad sides and good sides, all my weaknesses, all my strengths. And so she should be, because I'm trusting this person to be part of my life, to be able to also raise my kids too as well. So there's different levels of trust. So that's what I'm saying. What does trust mean to me? I can't really say what it means to me. All I know is that I guard who's in those different circles.
So you basically, and I have the same thing. You have you have a circle and then another circle and another circle, and you subconsciously have people in layers of the trust that you give them. And some people,
Yeah.
they just like, oh, you don't go past that.
Even family members, they're not even in that inner circle. I have family members who are like, you're a stranger to me.
So you're saying borders and boundaries are good.
100.
Shocker.
I have my own wall.
Yeah, Roy has his own wall.
Yeah.
That's healthy though.
Yeah.
It's very healthy.
That's good. Trust, or what it means to me, I believe that it's the ability, or giving someone the ability to hurt you with something vulnerable that you give them. So if it's something like,
You relate to pain.
they have the ability to, like, you're giving them access, basically. You're giving them access to you, and you're giving them the ability to benefit your life or hurt your life. And you have to, like you were saying, you have to like manage who's in what area, because you can't let someone in who's too close, who can really like do some damage if they're not in good character, you know. Jesus had his close three. There's Peter, James, and John, who were always around him the most often, and then he had the 12, and then there was the 120 that was at the beginning of the book of Acts. So it's perfectly fine to have boundaries in how much trust you give somebody. And I think it's maybe I'm not quite saying it the right way. I'm still kind of working out how to say it, but trust is like giving yourself or a piece of yourself to someone, and you're giving them access to you, which I think is a decent definition for it.
Yeah.
So they have the ability to bless or curse. They have the ability to benefit or destroy something in your life.
You know what's funny is that there's a lot of people out there that they want to believe that there is a higher power. They feel that there is. They just don't. They're just afraid to give that level of trust and say that it's this particular person, or, you know,
A higher
Jesus.
power? Are you talking about God?
Yeah.
People are afraid.
But they believe that there is a higher power. They definitely believe that
Right.
there's a spiritual connection to something. They just don't. They're just afraid to give it a name or a face. You guys ever heard
I know
about that?
I know a lot of people like that. They
Yeah.
don't. They know the spiritual realm is real. Like you said, they know that there are entities, a god or gods, but they are too afraid to declare one that is the God. That's what I see a lot. They know there's things out there that are not just like in the physical realm. There's a whole nother dimension thing, and they just can't get to the part of a trust or like, you know, have that faith to be like, I'm going on that team 100%. And it's usually they won't pick Team Jesus, right? When you have these people, they're just like, I don't know, but what about Hinduism or Buddhism or, you know, Islam? And how do you know? And it's like, well, there really is only one that actually died for you. Everyone else is like saying you got to do all this stuff. And there's a whole bunch of other things, but like, there's only one king. Like, and this is the thing is if you believe that we are created and something created us, well, then there has to be a creator. And if there's a creator, who is that? Okay. If I'm wrong, and let's just say it's Islam or Buddha or like a different one that's the actual God, well, then I'm wrong. Okay. I don't think I am, but maybe I am. Okay. But you got to figure that out on your own. But the thing is when you pick your team and you go all in, you're all in. You better make sure you pick the right team. And so like if there's one God that created all these other gods and entities, you want to go on that guy's team. Like, let's just say like,
what do you say to people that are just, they're all about everything. They're just like, oh, I believe it's this. I believe it's this. Like they can't seem to make up their mind. They just like, they're trying to cover their, you know, all the grounds, like every ground possible. Like,
I think there's a few things, but I think the first thing that comes to my mind is they don't have discernment, but I don't want to even just say that because I think a lot of it is I'm just going to use from a personal experience that I know someone that I've talked to with this is they're afraid to almost pick because they would say, I don't know. There's just too much, but they won't challenge themselves to actually dive in and figure out what's true because this is what I believe. If God is real, the Almighty God, and Jesus is King, and you go search for him, genuinely search for him, I don't need to show you nothing. He's going to reveal himself. But you have to genuinely go after it. And you're going to run into resistance because what I talked about in the last episode, like the devil is at work. But if you genuinely want to find out who is the real king, if he's a good king, he's going to show you who he is. But you got to go seek.
You got to go seek.
He's after your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I would tell people is like, are you really seeking, or are you like, oh, I want to have fun over here and live my life and do my thing? And it's like, you can do that, but that's not genuinely seeking. So it's hard to like do that, if that makes sense. I've said that to one person one time, like, I don't know.
Yeah, to me, it's just like having, like, say there's, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's like hundreds of religions, but say that you have like 5 cups, and you pour, you have your energy, your spirit, your soul, and you're pouring evenly. You pour that, just enough in each one where they're like all even, but nothing is actually getting your full, you're all in. Nothing's overflowing, allowing you to be able to overflow and then experience the I don't know what I'm like.
Fullness.
The fullness,
Yeah.
exactly. I almost said you'll never experience your thirst being quenched, which actually that might be. Yeah.
Oh,
Keep talking. You're fine.
Yeah.
yeah, keep going, man.
You'll never
Preach,
get your
brother.
thirst quenched.
He doesn't even know. Keep
Okay,
going.
So I'm gonna make that a drink. So
I'm going to make that a drink.
yeah, I don't know. But anyways,
No,
yeah, you'll never
were going there,
you'll
man.
never experience the fullness. That's what I'm trying to say. If you pour whatever you have, your energy, your focus, and you just want to be able to say, oh, I just want to be able to be in
Yeah.
every single one. Not one of them is going to quench your thirst.
Yeah, I think on that point too, that's what faith is also. Like at the end of the day, like you got to have faith, and so you're gonna pick a team. What team do you pick? But at the end of the day, I can't remember who said this, but he's like, I can't prove to you God exists, but I can show you an abundance amount of evidence of what is going on in our history and all these things, and you can decide. But if you like look at all these religions and all these things, and you actually go look at it, the evidence is pretty darn clear of what's actually going on. People just don't want to look at it. They don't want to take the time. They don't want to, just for themselves go into it. But at the end of the day, it does take faith. Like, what do you believe and where you're at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trusting completely with your whole heart can be difficult, and especially with God, that's like the ultimate submission, the ultimate form of trust. And a lot of people are just not willing to do that because they have issues for whatever reason trusting people, or it just makes them uncomfortable, and they're more comfortable just trusting some other outside source, like we talked about, the government, their parents, their some authority figure that's presenting themselves as the ruler over them, and they don't usually come out from under that. And sometimes people become super self-reliant. They only trust themselves. There's a lot of mantras out there with like the self-help community, like no help is coming, like only rely on yourself. And that's kind of like hardening people, and it's those kind of people have a very difficult time trusting God because they only want to rely on their own abilities.
Yeah, and then you get burned by people, right?
Yeah,
Because you said
Yeah.
offense. Yeah, like you said earlier, like the more you trust somebody, you're giving them basically the chance to rip you apart because you're being vulnerable, or you're sharing things that they can now use against you if you want.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that a lot.
That's happened to quite a few people.
Yeah. So for me, my natural state is I'm actually a very trusting person. Like you almost have to like do something to me to like lose trust. But I am getting better at discernment of like, yeah, we're not going to trust that person from day one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I had the opposite coming from of like, I would trust like a lot of people, but now like, I'm like, okay, I've seen the world a bit. I've got some experience. I got kids. There's like, I got protector mode going on. So I'm like, all right, I'm in a different stage of life now, but I still genuinely see the world, I think, from a trusting standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I'm looking at that. So it is interesting because I find myself in relationships, I will give trust 99.9% of the time first before anyone else does. Like I will open up and be vulnerable or say something before the other person almost every time.
Do you think that's a luxury to be able to have that ability to think that way or to respond that way at first, because it seems like a lot of people, they're very much not willing to trust in the beginning. Like you gotta earn my trust. And I think that's so you and I are very similar that way, because I feel that way too, where I can, oh yeah, let's talk. Oh, you say you're going to do something? Great. You know what? I feel like I can trust you. Obviously I'm not going to blindly trust you, but there's some evidence showing that you're capable of being able to perform a certain act or have the capability of doing something. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you, I'm more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt than to be completely closed off to your possibility.
Yeah, I use the word luxury. I don't think it would be a luxury, just from the standpoint of how many times I've been burned because I trusted too fast. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but I do think there is an advantage sometimes.
I think there's
an advantage. I'd use that word more than luxury.
Because you just don't know too. Like this person could have completely shocked you. Like, I'm glad I really gave this person a shot, instead of, shutting down and saying no to. That also goes to opportunities. Instead of saying no to opportunities, you just kind of like, let's explore this.
Here's the example that I would use is I think because I'm a trusting person, I've been taken advantage of a lot and I've gotten hurt a lot, but I've also built relationships that I probably never would have if I never got vulnerable and went out first. I never would have probably connected with certain people that are in my life today that I love. And maybe I would, but I don't I think that's an advantage of being able to do that, because I seen they had massive walls, right? And so if you start doing that and then you start connecting with those people and you're like, oh my gosh, these are my people. But I had to go out a lot in the front run to do that. And if I didn't, I don't know if they would have. Doesn't mean they wouldn't. I'm just saying I'm playing certain people out in my head right now.
I'm curious. I would like to find this. I don't think we have the answer to this, but just popped into
Siri?
Siri?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, Siri has his own issues.
I saw the thing you sent me. Oh, it was Alexa.
It was Alexa.
All right, sorry. What was you going to say, though?
But no, it's like, I was just thinking, are men more likely to trust than women, or is it vice versa? I'm curious to know.
Are men more likely
to trust?
In what situation? Any situation or what?
I would just say any situation.
Oh, man.
I'm very curious about that, because
I've never thought of that question, so I don't even know.
Man,
I got to think on that.
We're probably trusting in just different areas.
Yeah, I would say
I'd say men trust each other in the form of protection and mutual respect, and women usually share more vulnerable, emotional information.
Yeah, I got a good example. If we're gonna go blow something up and do something dumb,
dude, I trust you with my life.
I'll trust you with my life. Wait, you got it?
Yes.
We can go do that? All right, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something that's physically dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Adrenaline's involved?
Yeah, we're
well,
fine.
we're good.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think most men, though, when it's coming to sharing something that's so vulnerable emotionally or ready to cry, most guys are not going to trust. Mm-hmm. So I think on that aspect, I think that's where men and women really...
Do you think they're going to not trust? Do you think they're most likely to trust men, be able to trust other men with that level of vulnerability? Because I also think that's something that we're missing as in our brotherhood, for men to be able to trust other men with that vulnerability, because they know the other guys can be like, bro, what the hell is wrong with you? Get your ass up, get to work, go work out, go do something, get going.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier is offense. If people have hurt you in a certain way, you just wanted to share something and they went, they took it the wrong way, or they corrected you, or they shut up, cry about it, that kind of mentality. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier, people being hardened, don't want to trust. And then when they receive the opportunity to trust somebody else, that's that kind of person who's been hardened over years of just trusting no one but themselves. So they're mad that someone doesn't want to do that. They're angry that someone doesn't want to trust someone that someone wants to trust someone other than themselves. They're no, you can't do that. And they just tell them screw off, basically.
Yeah, I kind of almost feel too with women don't trust other women, because they're very, like, they obviously, women use more of their brains mentally, I would say.
Yeah, it's like that tab on the internet, right?
Yeah.
They have more
I
tabs
got like
open?
one tab, two, maybe three. Where's Leah? Are you in here, Leah?
I don't see her.
She's around here somewhere for that. She's got like 20 tabs open, I think, all the
Yeah.
time. What do you think about it? I'm like, nothing.
Okay, so you're talking about the tabs. You're talking about the tabs
Yes.
on the window.
Yeah,
on the
nothing.
windows,
Men can
okay.
think about
I was like,
nothing.
what
All right,
tab?
we
are you
can
talking
think about nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
men have the ability
They
to think
can't
about
do that,
nothing,
apparently.
and it's great,
Yeah.
and it just messes with them so
Like
much.
I can like look out and I'm like, I have nothing on my mind. They're like, you're lying. I'm like, no, I literally had nothing open.
Yeah, right.
But no, I think on the trusting side, you're right, Roy. Like, men need other brothers and men to like open up and dive into, and even when you're really close and you trust that person, I've found it very, very hard still to penetrate certain people that I've been deep with, because they'll have a wall, and you can't just go berate and break that thing down until they're ready. It won't work. Like, you're gonna wreck the relationship. They have to be willing. So there's a point where I trust them 100%, and I can get vulnerable, but it doesn't mean they're gonna get vulnerable back. And so that's what I've run into. I've been in a lot of places where I've opened up, and I'm waiting for them to say something, and they won't say anything. And then they'll slowly go here, right? And it's not that that's a bad thing. I think this is the advantage I'm talking about, where people, when they're trusting, like, I can, within usually like 2 or 3 times hanging out with somebody, I can go like, you're basically at like 0 to 100 pretty quick, or you're 0 to 90, or like, there's not many people that are 100, but I have a handful of people, like, it doesn't matter what it is, like, we're good. Like, I need anything, or I need to do something, or like toss the kids, or like, we're good, right?
Yeah.
But I have a small group of that. And then I think what you said was perfect, how I had it too. I have a next layer, and then I have a next layer, and then I have the layer that's like, I don't even remember who you are.
Yeah.
But I think to the point though is like, we do need more men to be vulnerable, and vulnerability is not weakness. It is not. Now, the thing is, you don't share everything with everybody. You don't just go find someone and be like, hey, you're a dude, I'm a dude, we're friends, let's just share everything and pour our hearts out. That's a dumb idea.
I was thinking of Good Burger. You're a dude. I'm a dude. We're a dude. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's been so long. I didn't realize I was doing that, but you're right. But you do need to be careful too, because to what you said, like, when you're like, oh, what the hell's wrong? Like, you want to find people that actually, it's called being equally yoked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that you need to be 100% on the exact same plane, but you need to be in the sphere of what you're about to go adventure on, because someone's going to be like, no, I'm not going there, and I'm crazy. And then what happens is you just pour into them, and they never give back. They never reciprocate, and so the relationship will eventually break. And I've experienced this multiple times, where I've been deep with people for multiple years, and I've never got poured back. And eventually you're just like, well, if you're not gonna be vulnerable with me, like, I'm done, like, being vulnerable. And then what happens is they go, well, you've changed. And I'm like, no, I'm just not sharing my intimate stuff with you anymore, because you're not going there. And I'm like, my relationship has just changed. Doesn't mean I've changed. It's just like, I'm not gonna keep sharing these things with you if you're not willing to break down some walls too, and we can just be more of a casual friend. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So no, I've had people like where they easily are kind of like opening up to me, but to me, I'm just like, this guy, like, I don't know if this person's ready to handle the feedback that I want to give this guy, because they're not there. And so that relationship between me and this other person is like, it's not going to work. So I feel bad, because they're pouring, kind of like you're pouring into other people. But to me, I'm just like, you're not ready to take the feedback that you really need to have, because you're just not capable of receiving it.
Yeah, and this goes, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know why, I just feel like I want to hear them. No, I know why, but like, that also goes to love too. So what I just said earlier, there's also people that are put in your life that you love them, and if they are not there, but you know they're part of your tribe, or you're in it for the long haul, you don't let them go. Now, there's not a lot of them. There's a handful of them, but like, there's people where there's like, nope, God told me, like, you're my brother and sister, like, you're not going anywhere, and like, what you just said. It's maybe we're not going there today, but you're not leaving, right? And I'm here to fight for you. You got to be careful who you pick on that, though, because, like I said, the reciprocation. Yeah, I think I said it right.
Not precipitation, but
yeah.
You didn't say that either, but I'm just saying.
But what I think is like, that's what's special about relationship is like, sometimes I'm going to be there and I can go after it, but I'm going to need someone to come pick me back up, right? And so you find those people who can do that for you. And I think that's also part of trust too, right? Is you're trusting people at different levels and at different times. And it's kind of like the journey of life in a sense of the fun part of like, if I'm going to tell you something that's crazy that you might reject me, it's one of those things where like you're giving them a gift, right? Because you can now shatter me, you can hurt me. And so when you've given each other gifts back and forth, it's kind of like you're bonding in a sense of like ways that if you never get vulnerable, your level of friendship cannot go deep. And so the more you trust somebody and then they trust you, people, I think, if you've never experienced that deep level of trust of friends and love, too many people don't even know what it's like. I feel like I've seen people that are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like of like going really far with convos of like opening up about the craziest things that have hurt me or where I'm at and doing this on a daily, weekly basis. And they're like, dude, I have that convo once a year and it's not even deep. And that's a lot of, especially men.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think for me personally, I think I've been very blessed with the friends in my life, in my circle. Because I've had these convos for the last 2 or 3 years on a daily, weekly basis. And I love it. And that's actually what I miss not being here in Dallas. Is now I'm kind of isolated in a sense. And I miss having these convos. We're back here, and the convos we've had this week has been blowing my mind. Mm-hmm. Just staying where we've been staying.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it helps when you're staying with somebody.
You kind of
and I'm not like at an Airbnb, and I have, I'm talking.
Yeah.
And, but I think at the end of the day, the joy that you can have when you like, I'll just use Alex for example, because I've known him longer than you guys, right? Or you, Roy. I've built a trust with him, and a lot of it is just storytelling. He's telling me his life story, and I'm telling him mine. And where I'm coming from is I'm feeling out, okay, how is he reacting to this crazy adventure I've been on, and all these things I'm doing? What does he think? Am I getting rejected? Is he doing this? Is he pulling away? Because when you start telling people crazy stuff, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm probably not going to hang out. I'm not going to hang out with Jaron anymore after that one. Yeah. And so what happens is you start telling your story of who I am, not like the things I've done, but who Jaron Matheson is. I've opened up pretty hardcore to Alex. Out of top 10 people in my life, he is one of the top 10 that knows me, I believe, pretty deep to the core. Mm-hmm. Like there's more people that know more, but he knows a lot. Okay, I've opened up to him quite a bit. I think he's opened up a lot to me, but not like all the way. But I know quite a bit of things, right? We've shared a lot. And so the vulnerability of trust, though, I think that's the key, is I'm sharing who I am and not the things that I do. And I think a lot of people don't understand the difference. And so when you're sharing the things that you do, and you like we talked about the exciting things with men, I trust you, we're gonna go blow stuff up. But it's like here's an example, like who I am, right? Like who is Jaron? And so if I'm like talking to both you guys and I want to get open and vulnerable, is like one of the things that, that's like deeply is exciting about me is this adventure I'm on to go build a business. One of the things I love about my life is God put me here to go inspire people, to help them find their why. God put me on this earth to inspire people to find out the destiny that they were created for. If I'm not inspiring you guys to go figure that out, then what am I doing in your life? Okay? That's part of me. So like just sharing these intimate things, and I've said that to somebody and I've got laughed at. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, this person's not my people. That's all good. Mm-hmm. Like they're like, oh, that's nuts.
Yeah.
So like when you start sharing those things intimate about who you are and what you're doing, and why you're doing it, you just get a whole different level of trust that I've experienced. So,
Right. I definitely agree with what you said.
Right.
It's like, okay, receive that. I agree with what you said about love and trust, and those two things are very intimately linked. And it's like what I was saying earlier about the definition that I gave of trust is giving people access to you, and they have the opportunity to bless or curse, to like benefit or harm you. And with love, it's the same thing. In the Bible, the greatest form of love was Jesus sacrificing himself. So love is defined as sacrifice. You're giving someone something. The greatest form is laying down your life for a friend. And there are different levels of that, just sacrificing something for somebody else. So when you're trusting someone, you're sacrificing the self-reliance, you're sacrificing the security, essentially. You're sacrificing what can be perceived as safety in the effort to get to know somebody or want them to know you. So when you're trusting someone, it's an act of love. And when you do that and it's reciprocated, then that compounds on each other and you build a relationship, essentially. So I'd agree with what you said about love completely and trust, and those two are very close to each other.
I think they're very close, and I think a lot of people miss it.
Yeah. Like, people are afraid to trust, which means they're not going to have a whole lot of love in their lives. They're going to be rather isolated.
Yeah, but I also don't think people are that they know how to allow themselves to be able to open them, be vulnerable like that.
Right.
I think that's something that's lost in practice, and also
It's very hard.
It takes time.
But
yeah,
I mean, it just goes back to the next level, the next generation. Because my father, he was never very much a touchy-feely kind of guy. He never really opened up to me, and I don't fault him for this at all. But that's also something I'm like, okay, we've seen the results of that, where I had to kind of figure this out some other way. Whereas now, I definitely going to talk to my son and my daughter about, how do you be vulnerable with someone? How do you learn how to trust someone? How to, create a system for that? Because I think there is a system to it, especially when, after some things have also proven, to be positive and how it works. Because if I want, then if they do have the, later on they will possibly want to find someone special they want to spend their life with, and also who they want to do business with, also who they want to be able to, just do other things with, teaching them the best way, the best route to go about it, instead of having them going through the heartache of figuring it out themselves. So
I think one thing on that too is, I think from a trusting standpoint too, from a girl and a woman needs to be careful who they're trusting in a man, big time. Because, you can just look at today's day and age, right? Like, you can be taken advantage of really easy. Same thing in business. Like, you got to look at the character of people that you're willing to be vulnerable with. So it's not saying like, this is where I've learned this. Like, you need to figure out who these people are before you, hey, here I all am.
Yeah. But I also think now too, it's very dangerous for boys, because women will have their own. Right now the law is designed to be in their favor. You got to be very careful of who you choose to pick, because even though this one girl may be one way,
I have the easiest solution, and I bet most men will not agree with this. Just wait to have sex to have married, and you don't have to worry about any of it. Don't get physical.
I don't think that's. I think that could be. I think that could be a good tool. I do believe that could be a good tool to add to the toolbox. But I also don't think.
Well, I know most people won't agree with me, but I'm just saying, like, if you're worried about the law, if you want to honor that person too, and this is my opinion on it, is like, because when you say that, I would like. Growing up, I never thought that even in today's society, that would never be an issue with me, because I would never put myself in that situation where it would, like, something would come up. I just wouldn't do it.
But here's the thing.
And so I get where you're coming from though, and I'm not saying everybody should follow my moral code. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying though, if the law is changed that way where it's against that and you're worried about it, like there is a very easy solution. Not saying you need to do it, but it's super easy. Just saying.
No, but here's the thing. Say they do that. They get married, they consummate, and okay, then you have a couple years in, the guys, obviously there's prenups that you get and also postnups, but the women can still cause harm even after marriage. You got to be very, very careful. One solution I heard of that was actually really good to test is if you go backpacking with, you can only spend a certain amount of money with, on this trip while you're backpacking. If you can make it through that with a little amount of money and to be able to survive that, I think that's also another tool that you could add to that. And you guys make it out of it still intact, still loving each other, still, very much happy, then those are good signs.
You just need to play a board game with them. Is it's my thing.
That's how you analyze character.
Yeah, that's how.
Do they flip the board of Monopoly?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
this is actually a relationship. I will watch people how they will play
he just
games.
He failed the test.
Like, I do. I literally will play games with people, and the first thing I do is I analyze: are they excited? Do they get frustrated? Do they get stressed? If I love pushing buttons. I don't know what about me. I just like it. Yeah. I will purposely do something that kind of like throws the game off in the middle of the game a little bit. Mm-hmm. And there's people.
You're that person that's in the middle of the game of Uno. You'll have like 7 reverse cards.
Yes, I will.
Reverse.
I've been stashing those.
Draw 7, draw 4.
No, but it's interesting. Yeah. But you put people in stressful situations to see what you can do. But no, I mean, to your point though, is I know what you mean by that. But I guess for me, like, it doesn't even like compute with me because I think at the end of the day, and this is where like, I don't want to get into it because I don't feel like I have a good opinion on it because for most men, I don't fall in line with them. Mm-hmm. And so for me to have a voice in it, yeah, I can give you my opinion, but most people don't live the way that I live. And so I don't want to change anybody. I'm just saying like, hey, like you don't have to worry about basically any of that stuff though if you lived a different life. Like here's an example. I had a friend. They came to me and they're like, I think they're like 28, 29. This is last year. And they're like, there are no good women out here. And I said, what are you talking about? I was like, I can think of like 5 off the top of my head, right? And this person knows these 5. But the thing is, he doesn't know how to connect or relate to these other people, so he doesn't know who they are at all. And so what's happening is he's fishing in a pool of like the bar scene, the hookup culture, the good, they ain't there. He doesn't know how to find the good women, and they're out there. There's a ton of them. But when you live a certain lifestyle, you're not able to find, and it's vice versa. If you're living like the woman crazy, you're not attracting the other types of men. And so I think what happens is these people get connected, they get together, have sex, and then they get married, and they should not be together because they were not who they were looking to be. And I think that happens way, way, way more than it shouldn't. I mean, I don't know this. I've just seen a lot of it happen.
It's funny you say this because these reality, I'm pretty sure you've never heard of it, but you may have heard of it. That Love is Blind TV show.
No.
So it's on Netflix, and Love is Blind, and these women are watching. I mean, my wife watches this too because she just likes watching drama stuff, anyways. But people are literally like, they don't see each other, and they're just kind of like they're getting to know each other, but then
you can't. There's something in front of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's something in front of them, but they're being instigated. I feel like that they're trying to also train you that this is how life is. Yes, you're gonna get together, you're gonna get married. Okay, you're gonna get divorced, and okay, we'll just keep moving forward. And it was never supposed to be that way at all. Like it's so much deeper. But you're also involving media. then there's behind the scenes of acts that are happening right there. But what I'm trying to get is that just mainly to your point is like, yes, I think the guys don't know what they're doing. They're watching what's kind of on TV, and they're following suit to how people want you to date each other.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't have a role model too. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of them don't know what they don't know. I think most guys actually they don't know.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. There's not a whole lot of role models for people to look to. Like, fatherlessness is a huge problem, so that leaves a trusting, I guess maybe a wound that makes it harder to trust later in life. And also just not having a bunch of good men around you. You kind of just grow up with like this teenage gang of your friends who just like do a bunch of stupid stuff, and like that's your role model. Like that's your tribe, that's your group essentially. Yeah. And it's difficult to break out of that and kind of mature because everyone just kind of like stays there. We used to have these communities of multi-generational people in like churches or your local town. So you'd have the wisdom from older generations, mm-hmm. and you have your friends in the generation that you're in. And we've lost that a lot. So people only tend to trust this like little group of the generation that you're in, not a whole lot of access to the other ones. So there's not a whole lot of connection. There's not a whole lot of trust of authority figures, and there's not a whole lot of passing on of that, the role model qualities that you would used to be able to look to in older men.
Yeah, it is very sad. Mm-hmm. They don't have that. But I think it's a big thing what you just said. If you don't have those role models, definitely different generations too, mm-hmm. and you don't have that community, yeah, I think it is tough. And I think another thing too is, and I'll go back to it, I think the hookup culture messes it all up. Mm-hmm. You know, I'll probably get crucified on that one, but like, I tell you what, it's not helping you. Maybe short term it's fun, but like long term, I don't think it's in your benefit.
So here's a solution I would propose to the guy that's looking for, you know, he says he thinks there's no good women around here, is for him to go and seek 3 different types of successful marriages that are like maybe in, you know, middle class, that are doing rich, that are also they're not so well off, but to, you know, go and be around those guys. And then you also go around and you speak to the men that got divorced. You go and you ask and be around them, ask questions, and because you're learning, okay, some of the good stuff from here, some of the bad stuff from here, what not to do, what to do, what not to do, what to do. And I believe completely you'll be able to gather enough data to figure out, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what has led to this detriment. This way I have a game plan or a North Star to hang my hat on. Because if you do that, then you're going to see a lot of, you're especially on the married side, the successful marriages, you're going to see a lot of traditions. You're going to see a lot of, you know, great morals and standards and principles that they built themselves around, how they built themselves up from where they were at. And then you're also going to see on the other side, okay, this is where they were lacking in these areas of tradition. These are where they were lacking. And this is where they got comfortable and didn't see the signs. So if that guy were to be here, that's exactly what I would tell him. Like, go and find 3 of each, three different divorced men, and also speak to the women as well, and also 3 successful, good marriages. Especially if they have kids, find old ones where they have kids that are, you know, the marriage is still intact. The kids are, you know, either going to school or they start a business, and then same thing with, you know, how they're handling the teenage years with their kids and including with their spouses. Because I think we can both agree that being married and then also being married and have kids they're completely different. You know, just being married and being together compared to being
I only
married.
got to experience that. Leah got pregnant in like 3 months after we were married.
You're quick.
So like, I didn't really get to experience marriage without a kid, really.
Okay.
For 1 year, but she was pregnant too. So
well, I mean, I can also, you know, to me, I'm the same way.
But
I was we were together for about a year and a half, and then we actually found out.
But I know it would be different.
Yeah, it would be different.
I know it would be completely different. I got one thing to end on, and then we'll wrap it up. So I think the biggest thing for me to go find, if you're right here, we're going to use Alex's example.
I'll use you.
Oh, no.
Here you go.
So we're going to coach you out.
No. And here he knows this. I'm not giving him anything new. Is go find a God-fearing woman. It's that simple.
Right.
But if you're not a God-fearing man, the God-fearing woman is not going to hitch up with you.
Mm-hmm.
It won't happen. It's unless God told that woman to marry you, which has happened before. I've heard these stories.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it to me. It's like, and I think the thing is, a lot of people are like, oh, they believe in God or they love the Lord. It's like, well, do they fear the Lord? Because that's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And most people don't know what that difference is. They think they do. But when you find someone like that, I think it actually answers almost all the questions that you were looking for. And the thing is, those women, there are plenty of them, but they're not where the non-God-fearing men hang out. They're not there. And so that's where that guy asked me the question.
Yeah.
He can't find them because how he lives his life or what he's doing is nowhere near where any of these people are going to be doing, hanging out, or going, or anything. And so they just don't cross paths, really. Or if they do, they're not interested.
But if I can push back on that.
Oh, I love getting pushed back.
If you find a God-fearing woman,
Mm-hmm.
she's going to be ready for you to be not just a God-fearing man, but also take the lead. And some men think they're ready to take the lead, but then it's a very completely different way of leading than just leading your own personal life.
Mm-hmm.
You're now responsible for yours, hers, and even the kids that do follow.
Right.
You may not be ready for the kids that do follow, but you got to be ready to lead with hers.
The way I've looked at what God wants me to do and what God calls me to do in the past few years as I've developed more in my faith walk is I'm not ready for anything that I've been going through for several years. I was just willing to follow. So if God tells me to do something, I'll go do it. And whatever comes after, I'll have to sit through that refining process and just let it happen. And then changes come afterwards. So I'll make that decision and God can refine me along the way.
Yeah.
I think Alex is more ready than most men, actually.
Thank you.
And I mean that genuinely. I think you really are.
That goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's just trust. Like I trust that I can be as ready as I am now, but for the future, like I'm not ready for everything. I can prepare in the ways that God wants me to, but I trust that I'm willing to follow him because I trust him, and I'll be refined along the way.
So ladies, if you're single, we have Alex here. He is ready to be that man for you.
I can be that guy.
He can be that guy.
All righty.
All right. Well,
That was good.
this was good. Hit that subscribe button. If you like what we're talking about here, we're going to continue to bring up more questions, more conversations like this, and we're going to definitely have some more guests. We're just now getting back in the groove of things, and
We'll be doing these a lot online.
A lot more.
And we can invite more people on. And if anyone has any suggestion that they think they'd actually disagree with specifically or like really push back on any topic.
Especially Roy. I'm kidding.
No. We want them to come on actually and talk. Like we want to get challenged. We want to have discussion. That's literally what we're all about, is to actually go seek the truth, right? And just get to it. So
hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon.
boom.